For today's guitar workshop, I'm going to be playing I Want to Be Sedated by the Ramones off their 1978 Road to Ruin album. Now, across the pond in the UK in 1978, punk band Sham 69 puts out their full-length That's Life, which I would say exists in pretty stark punk contrast to what the Ramones did on Road to Ruin. This is also the year that the Misfits start recording their first demo. You can hear some of those on the CI recording 78 is how they're labeled on Spotify and probably labeled similarly on Apple Music or Amazon or wherever you listen. And then to give you some more context of 1978, here are some of the top movies. We have Animal House, which was one of the top earners at the box office. I mentioned them last week as being a influence in what got the movie Rock and Roll High School made that same year. And then also Close Encounters of the Third Kind with Richard Dreyfuss. It's a lot of John Travolta this year with both Grease and Saturday Night Fever. And then for all you fantasy heads out there, we've got Star Wars A New Hope and the Lord of the Rings animated film. So this is kind of what's going on and what's in the zeitgeist at the time that the Ramones record and put out this album, Road to Ruin. Now, on this 1978 release, this is the first album where they work with drummer Marky Ramone. Now the band is fronted by Joey Ramone, who actually in their first few practices started out both drumming and singing and found that he needed to pick one or the other, so he focused on singing. So it's interesting to think of the relationship that builds whenever a new drummer is coming in, when that's kind of how you started within the band. And I think it led to a really great many years and albums of collaboration between the two of them. One thing drummer Marky Ramone contributed on this song, I Want to Be Sedated, is he talked about how the song isn't about being sedated, it's about feeling overwhelmed and feeling the need to be sedated. And so he suggested a more manic tempo for how they played it, and that really comes through on the record. Now, I'm just gonna go through some basics of rock and roll instrument history now. This is probably stuff a lot of people already know, but my thought in sharing this is I was very lucky in percussion class as a 7th grader. I had a friend that was way cooler than me that introduced me to the Ramones and the Misfits and all sorts of other punk rock stuff, and not everybody gets lucky enough to sit next to somebody super cool while learning to play the snare drum. So, in talking about this is the Telecaster. Now, the Telecaster was the first mass-produced electric guitar that was put out in 1950 and 1951. Now, to get some context for this is designed by Leo Fender, who the Fender Guitar Company is named after. Now, he had been repairing instruments for many years and designed the Telecaster as something that was really easy to modify and swap out parts and repair individual pieces, rather than if one thing goes wrong, the whole instrument is screwed up. And I think an important thing to think of with rock and roll and guitar-based music is, what did the electric guitar seek to replace? So prior to this, there was the lap steel guitar, which is similar to the 6-string guitar everybody knows now, but you play it on a tabletop. And then also the more flamenco finger-picking style Spanish acoustic guitar. So the Telecaster was really trying to take elements of both of these instruments and make something portable for a band leader to be able to play. Now, I'll also note in talking about this moment in music history as electric instruments are getting put out, something I'm a stickler for is, rather than referring to a P-bass as a bass guitar, I'm pretty staunch in referring to it as an electric bass. Because rather than seeing it as a guitar that has less strings and plays lowered notes, if you see it as a smaller version of the instrument you see here on the left, an upright bass, this is so much easier to travel with than an upright bass, or to get up and just get upstairs into a gig and things. So really revolutionary for the rhythm section of bands. Now, the core foundation of the song we're playing this week, I Want to Be Sedated, is the power chord. Now, in a scale, in Western music theory, there are 8 notes. What a power chord is the 1st and 5th note of a scale together in what's called a major 5th chord. Now, you can also play the octave, which is the fret immediately under that 5th chord. So these are 2 frets, 2 spots apart on the guitar. So this is one of the simplest positions you can do with your hand, and it is the foundation for rock music. and think about that electric guitar getting invented and being able to amplify this so that it is louder than a drum set, or being able to compete with a drum set. So here you can see these are amplifiers for a guitar. And again, this is probably basic stuff a lot of people already know, but there are some people out there who don't and are interested to find out about it. So on the left, we have a combo amplifier where the speaker and the amplifier is all in one unit. And what is on the right is a stack. Now a stack has the cabinet with the speakers in it, and then the head that actually amplifies the signal as a separate piece, and then there's a cable that runs between them. And again, as I was saying, the electric guitar coming to prominence and people being able to play simple chords like the power chord loud enough that they can be heard over drums really is the foundation of what led to rock and roll music becoming what it is. Which leads me to my next point, is talking about distortion. Now this is a distortion pedal, which is something outside of an amp you can use to get the tone you want. But what distortion is where you are changing the signal from making guitar sound like a heavenly little harp to sounding kind of mean and grimy. And that, with the amplification of an amp and with the power chord, is just kind of how you get that mean screaming sound of rock and roll. Which takes us back to our song for this week, I Want to Be Sedated by the Ramones, off their 1978 record, Road to Ruin. This song was a lot of fun to learn. For the most part, it is all power chords, with the exception on 2 short strumming solo breaks where there are just 2-note chords that are pretty simple to play. I've worked on this one for about a week and a half. It's been really fun to get into, and similar to Blitzkrieg Bop that I worked on last week, this is another song that's been in tons of commercials and movies and TV shows, and it's just really in the cultural ether of rock and roll around the world. So I highly suggest you check out I Want to Be Sedated by the Ramones, and if you want to challenge yourself, teach it to yourself on your favorite instrument. Now, as I do these guitar workshops, I don't make any claim to be an expert at the guitar. There are people all over YouTube that can play guitar better than me, know music theory better than me, but I'm having a lot of fun teaching myself to play again and connecting with a lot of classics. So in doing these guitar workshops, I'm just trying to bring you on that journey with me. If you find it interesting, check it out. If you don't, no one's making you watch it. Don't say anything mean to me. I'm doing